welcome everyone again. And we're gonna let speakers introduce themselves, and we could start with ladies first. So Vanessa.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Vanessa Natera. I use she, her pronouns. A little bit about myself is that I'm a first-year medical student at UCSD, part of the Prime Health Equity Program. So I'll be getting a MD and a master's during my time in medical school. I attended community college. I went to Cypress College, and then from there I transferred to UCLA, and that's where I got my degree in biology, and then I applied to medical school. So yeah, it's a little bit about me. I don't know what I'm interested in. I'm exploring everything, but I think as of right now, I want to go into surgery.
Alejandro.
Hi, everybody. My name is Alejandro. I'm a first year medical student as well. We all are. I'm a non-traditional student. I went to community college in 2016. In 2018, I transferred to UCSD, double majored, graduated, did 3 gap years, long road, but finally here as an MS1 at UCSD. Happy to be here. I really am interested in neurology as a specialty. I did a lot of stuff with neuroscience in undergrad, and then I worked in a neurology clinic during my gap years. Did a lot of work with like Hispanic populations. So I was a medical Spanish interpreter. I TA'd for medical Spanish elective class, et cetera, et cetera. So I like to like bring the best of both worlds here, support my community, be a representative, and also try to push the cutting edge in neuroscience. Happy to talk about any of these topics with any of you if you're interested. And I'm glad that everyone has the courage to come to these panels, ask questions, and dream big. Thank you.
Last but not least, Jose.
It's going to be hard to follow that. Both of you are so prepared. I'm Jose Vasquez. I'm a first year medical student as well. I did the community college path. I'm non-traditional as well. I actually dropped out of high school before going back to college. And then I did I did a lot of typical pre-med things. I did pharmacy, I did EMT, and a lot of volunteer work. I'm currently volunteering at the free clinic. I'm there almost every week, sometimes multiple times a week. So I'm very involved here on campus and in the community. These are things I'm passionate about. I'm currently pursuing, or I'm part of the MD PhD program, means by the end of my roughly 8-year journey, I'll have both an MD and a PhD. At least that's the goal. And like Alejandro said, dream big. I adhere to that wholeheartedly because a long time ago, I didn't think I'd be here, and now I am, and I'm embracing it, and I hope that I inspire and motivate some of you. If you have any questions whatsoever, please do not hesitate to reach out. Also, my research is predominantly neuroscience. That's what my background's in. I'm studying the neural circuits of substance use disorder, psychiatric illnesses, and neurodegenerative diseases. If any of those things interest you, feel free to reach out as well. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for
We have
coming.
to start calling you Doctor.
No, it's okay. We can just stick to student for now. It'll be a long time before that happens, but thank you.
All right. Well, the first question is apparently all you guys started at community college, and um, can you share a little bit about your community college experience, what you did in community college, like some of the activities, and what some things that were helped you be successful in at community college and in your transfer process as well.
I can start for the group. So like I had mentioned, I went to Cypress Community College, which in my opinion was like one of the best decisions I ever made in my life. I think community college was the reason I was able to graduate undergrad debt free. I don't have any debt from undergrad. That's like a huge deal, especially, being first gen, coming from a family that immigrated to the United States, thinking about higher education. I was like, how am I going to afford this? This is a lot of money. And community college really helped me prepare to succeed academically at the UC level because one thing I realized when I went into community college is that my high school just, I wasn't in a space where I had the resources to succeed as much as I could. When you enter UCLA, you start to see that there's a lot of students that just grew up going to private tutoring, grew up having so many resources fed to them. Like the SAT, I kind of just figured it out on my own when I was in high school because nobody in my family had taken it. So I think community college allowed me to develop study skills to succeed when I got to a UC, and that's what ultimately allowed me to not have any really big dips in my GPA and be able to matriculate to medical school eventually and do well on the MCAT. That being said, I was heavily involved in community college. I was a part of a STEM program there. I was also involved with the summer health scholars program at UCLA School of Medicine. So that was where over summer I was actually able to stay at the David Geffen School of Medicine and meet students from like all over the country who were also interested in health, which was a really great experience. I also worked as a physiology tutor at that time because what's better than getting paid to be a tutor? So I had a wonderful time doing that, and that also helped me really solidify my study skills. So that being said, overall, I had a really positive community college experience. Every time I talk to anybody or any mentee, I tell them, go to community college. Yeah, people will always tell you like it's community college, but I think for me, it was the best decision I ever made. I took tough classes. They were just as hard, in my opinion, as when I got to UCLA. And I did do well when I got to UCLA, and I think it was really because of that support that I got. And my biggest advice too is if you see that you're struggling academically, don't be afraid to reach out. I personally love the smaller space at community college. I think it really allows you to ask questions to really figure out how to study because once you get to a UC, you will have, or any university, you'll have about 200 people per class. So it is a little bit more difficult to get that individualized help. And yeah, that's my experience.
You guys have big shoes to fill, so I don't know if you guys could be as eloquent as Vanessa, but you could try, right?
Okay, I can go next. I'll do my best. Vanessa really hit it home on this one. So I also went to community college. Originally, I actually went to a different university. Complicated things happened in my life, and I had to withdraw from that university. And luckily, community college was always there for me as a foundation, a place where you can build. So I went to De Anza College. It's in Cupertino in the Bay Area. It's amazing. It's like down the street from the Apple World Headquarters. So got a lot of promise there if you're a CS student. I wasn't, but there's a lot of opportunities to explore community college. Like Vanessa said, it's dirt cheap. I probably pay like for a full set of classes in the biosciences, I probably pay like $400 a quarter. So I paid that out of pocket and I could just work. I said our comment, Juven. I think that community college is a wonderful place to just experiment with very low consequences. Lots of the professors there are usually people who like can come from big universities, and the classes can be just as rigorous. There's a lot of opportunities to get involved with clubs. There's a lot of opportunities to get involved with work opportunities, internships. Those resources are connected in community colleges, and I've seen here at UCSD, a lot of programs that extend their arm of resources towards community colleges to serve as pipelines for students who want to go into pre-health or just want to transfer. I think community colleges get like one of the worst reps in higher education, period. Because for one reason, you don't start off with all your buddies on campus for 4 years. And honestly, you pay an arm and a leg, and now I think it's 2 arms and 1 leg to go to a 4 year. It's insane how much money you spend. And I'm saying from the bottom of my heart, the quality of the classes in terms of like the rigor or the opportunities available are not really all that different at a 4 year versus a community college. You can get so much out of a community college for like less than a tenth of the price. And as long as you're a social person, you can communicate with people. I met a lot of friends at community college, some of which I still talk to or have been close. They all transferred. They went to college in different parts of the country, graduated, are in like master's programs, went to work. So it's not like community college doesn't prepare you any less. I transferred to UCSD, as I said before, and I found that UCSD as an upperclassman taking my first classes like metabolic biochemistry, human physiology, I thought that they're kind of easier than the bio series and OChem series of community college because the community college, they do not relent. And if you slip up and you don't have a lot of like wiggle room, you don't get the grade you want. You have to work hard. You really have to earn that grade. So I think in retrospect, I really was prepared so well at community college for the academic rigor I would expect at a UC, much less UC San Diego, and much less in the bio department. I would recommend if you have any doubts to go to a community college campus, talk to a counselor, see what kind of courses they offer, and what is like the nature of their transfer rate to UCs is usually very good. And like Vanessa said, I actually also graduated debt-free from undergrad. It was wonderful. And it's like a really, really good place to be. If you're not sure what kind of decision you want to make with your life after college, you can afford to like work random jobs or take some time off and explore the options. Because debt really drives a lot of people's decisions to get into the workforce. And I'd rather that not be you. Community college really puts you in a wonderful foundation, and I can't speak well enough of it.
Wow, all of you are so impressive. I'm seriously gonna have to try to keep up with this. This is great. I love hearing everyone's story. Even if I've heard it before, it's always like refreshing to hear more. So yeah, let's see. I had bad grades in high school. I had like a 2.0 maybe GPA in high school, so I dropped out. I went to a counselor and I said, what should I do with my life? And they're like, oh, you can graduate from high school and then you can become like a manager of McDonald's or something, or you can start working in construction and make more money now. So I needed to work to help support my family and just to like support myself. And I really took that like to heart and I said, I don't really see a future for myself. I didn't get the support that I wanted when I was in high school, so I dropped out. And this happened in the 10th grade. I didn't get to do like geometry and like some of these upper div or like not even upper div, like the rudimentary math classes that you have to take. So I had to teach myself algebra and geometry and these things when I decided to go back to school so I can test at a higher level when I get to community college. And I chose community college because I obviously didn't have any money. And then what was around me, Compton College and El Camino College, shout out to them if anybody's here from there, you know, happy to see you. And I did the community college path. You know what? It didn't cost money to go to community college. And then I did my research. El Camino had a great like transfer rate to schools I was highly interested in going to, like for example, UCLA. I did the MESA program, which is like the Math Engineering Science Achievement Program. I did a lot of mentoring. I started to like build this like positive trajectory where I started to get good grades. I applied for scholarships. I got scholarships. I shared my story. People believed in me. And then it just like it kind of compounded on itself. So a big part of like my success, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for community college. And once you get started, the thing is that like if you really want it hard enough and you work hard enough, step by step, and you share your story, people will believe in you. You know, people at community college care. The reason why it's called community college is because it's people in your community, and these people want to see you succeed. So that's why I was happy to be part of the community college pathway. I got involved with this like summer program, which like invited us to UCLA. So I spent the summer there and I really liked it. I kept hearing big things about UCLA, so I definitely applied there and I did the 4 and 4 where you get with like when you're applying to transfer. I applied to 4 UCs and 4 Cal States. I got into all of them, full ride at all of them. I was very excited. I got the Regent Scholarship. I could have gone to UCLA or UC Irvine, San Diego, Santa Barbara, and all the Cal States that I applied to. And I decided once I like broke it down and decided what I really wanted to do, UC Irvine was the place for me. So I ended up at UC Irvine, and I don't regret that decision one bit. I had really good mentors in the community college program that recommended it to me. They had more research opportunities for me, more things aligned with my interests. So I chose that for the reasons that made sense to me. In that whole time, when I was before community college, from high school dropout to community college to UC Irvine, I was working at a pharmacy. So I was a legal drug dealer. And I got like my first experience to like what medicine is like throughout my life. But in pharmacy, I really got involved and saw the limitations of healthcare. I saw that as a future doctor, potentially, something I was interested in. The tools that we had are limited to the medications we can prescribe or the treatments that are already established. So I started to think a little bit differently about my path. I said I want to get really involved in research. So when I was transferring from community college to UC Irvine, I applied to a summer research program. I did research at Stanford. I was there for a whole summer. I didn't get paid, so I just decided to get a job. I was doing Uber nights and weekends, and then I was doing research by day. And that gave me my first exposure to research. So I didn't do research in community college until I was ready to transfer to a 4 year. So you don't have to be doing research right now. If you can, if you have access to it, if you have the time for it, great. But I highly, highly, highly recommend getting the grades. The grades are gonna be what gets you the money, what gets you into the schools. That's priority number one. You can always do research when you transfer. So knock out those OChem, Gen Chem, Bio. Those things are extremely, extremely important. Alejandro said it best. I honestly felt that once I transferred to the 4 year, everything else was just downhill from there. It was easier. It doesn't feel that way when you're looking at it from the community college lens. You're like, oh man, it's going to get so much harder. It's not. It really isn't. If you can succeed in community college, if you can do a semester of 16 weeks of like organic chemistry or something, then you're going to excel when you get to the university level, when you're doing things in 10 weeks, and you're competing amongst a bunch of other students, and everything is so much more fast paced. But the work that you did in the community college level prepared you well enough for it. Plus, you get smaller class sizes, you get more attention from your teachers. You can actually meet with them on a one-on-one and build a relationship. Community college is the way to go. And throughout that, I was volunteering at a local hospital. I was part of some program called Food Forward, where we would collect food donations and give them to people who are in need. I was working with a houseless program, people that don't have housing, and we kind of give them resources and things that they can, so then that way they can have a better quality of living. I was working as a manager of a parking lot. I worked at a nightclub as a security guard. I took on a tutoring job. And then I majored in biochemistry before transferring, and then ultimately decided to go into neurobiology when I got to UC Irvine. But I would not be here if it wasn't for community college. And the things I did for work were the things that helped me recognize ultimately that I wanted to be in medicine. And that's why I'm here today. So thank you, community college.
I just want to add something really quick too, because I think Jose touched on a lot of points. As you can, it's what it sounds like. We all made really great relationships in community college. Having community college on your medical school application will not be the reason you don't get in. I think that is such a big superstition that is not true. My letters, and I feel that my strongest letters of rec came from my community college professors. I had my three science letters came from my community college professors. I didn't get a science, well, except for my like research professor, but that's it because I couldn't build those relationships at UCLA because I was in a class of 200 people. It was just impossible. Whereas I feel like having my physiology professor who I TA'd for 6 years, because even after I left UCLA, I kept working with him, and having my OChem professor, my bio professor, that they knew me, they saw me not even just do well in their classes, but grow as a student. Were able to speak so much more to how I could compete at the rigor, and get through medical school. And that's what a medical school looks for. Like, don't feel like just because you're at a community college that you can't make those connections now, because those connections can have such a tremendous impact on your application cycle when you get there.
I gotta jump off of that too, because I think we're all like come from similar backgrounds, and I've never said it to anybody else. Um, Learn how to build relationships, learn how to make connections in community college, because there are very few consequences. If you just scuff it or like it's awkward, it's fine, they get it. So many students come in and out, it's not fixed. Community college, you might have people like take one class a quarter, you don't see them for a year, and they come back, life happens, right? It's different from a 4 year where everyone's going through a very regimented program where you're a first year, then you're a second year, then you're a third year. You better be a third year. So you better like keep up with your classmates. Community college is like, it's a dynamic place. It's like a giant colony of students. They come in and out in different places, right? So you can learn how to make those relationships in community college. I did a double major. So I ended up doing neuroscience and linguistics in UCSD. But the linguistics part came because I just explored some classes in community college. I ended up taking all these language classes, and I ended up taking like a year of French, and then I took a year of Russian, and like the Russian professor wrote me a letter of recommendation, and like you never know, right? Community college, I also like worked as a language tutor at the Learning Center, which then segued into like me getting some people who wanted tutoring, and then I ended up starting to do my own private tutoring. I've been doing that for 7 years now. Like I could have never predicted that was going to happen, and that's been really good for me. It's helped me like build my ability to mentor. So this is your time. Like, I think community college gives you even more flexibility than a 4 year university to explore, because you don't have like the guillotine of the price tag on your neck. You're not incurring debt by making choices that go nowhere. That's really powerful. And it gives you like the full range to really know who you are and grow as a person. And everything is more or less the same in terms of the dynamic they would expect from you as a student in classrooms, in labs, or in jobs. I'm also really quickly reading through some of the people's comments, the Q&A, just to like bounce off of something Vanessa already said. Do medical schools look poorly upon you taking classes at community college? No. All right. When you transfer from community college to a 4 year, there's programs like at UC called iGETC. It's an agreement where the community college classes are put onto your UC transcript. So effectively, the class you take at community college are on the UC transcript. You have to present all these transcripts when you apply to medical school, but they don't think negatively of it because you took it at community college. It doesn't really matter, honestly. And I will also say that if you have like some bad grades in the past and you don't want to like, you're worried about your GPA, that's something you have to talk about with a counselor or a pre-med advisor. Everyone's case is different. I shit you not, oh, pardon my French, 17 withdrawals on my app from community college. Because I had like 2 quarters where like I didn't care. I was like going through it. It was really bad. I had 17. Some people are like, oh, I have like a withdrawal. What do I do? I have 17 withdrawals. I applied to medical school. I got into medical school. Nobody asked me about my withdrawals. All those classes were not like inconsequential. So if you're worried about something about your app, if you're worried about something, there's a lot of room for like rebirth and trying again at community college. And there's just so many different ways in which you can like plant your seed and grow there.
The only thing I'm going to add is please don't be that one person on this session to say, oh, well, just because Alejandro had 17 withdrawals, I'm going to go have 17 withdrawals just to match that. Because I know some of you do that. The other thing is, and Vanessa answered it. So we've had like every dean of admission from California medical schools, and we asked them that question, and we've recorded it, and it's actually on YouTube, and you can go watch it. So Dr. Gulima, who I think spoken here like 3 times, they do accept community college. They do accept community college prereqs. It's kind of the same thing, and frankly, I would say this is from what I've heard is that it's a little bit harder because you're taking OChem with like 20 people versus 300, and they don't get grade by a curve, but also like your professor's in there the whole time, so you know, so in a sense, like it's and the other part of it too is we've had also like some private universities to like Stanford and Princeton and stuff. If you take organic chemistry at community college, or if you take it at UCLA or UC Berkeley or wherever, the same content, it needs to go to the state, at least in California, Oregon. It needs to go to the state and it needs to be approved. So it's not like, you can't set up your own community college and say, I'm teaching organic chemistry. It has to like pass through state standards. And so it's gone through the state standards. And also it's also checked off with all the other UCs and CSUs. And so it's not just something that you take, it's different and it's not, the content has to be the same. They have to teach you the same content. And so the only thing that might be different is the order may be a little bit different, but also, the class sizes, which, like, I don't know, I think like what I've heard is like 700 people take organic chemistry at Berkeley, a class and sessions, and you never see the professor. So, and you guys, we asked every dean of admission. I think we'll have UCLA. We had Kaiser last week. We asked them that question, and these schools have come on our sessions multiple times, and we've asked them multiple times. But you guys still ask that, and it's great. Ask that question. Be curious, but the information is out there that you can take your prereqs at community colleges. And if someone tells you otherwise, then they're wrong and they don't know what they're talking about. So this is another question. This is another question that people always ask is, how have you ever felt that you were behind? Did you ever compare yourself to your peers during this road?
I'll go first. Absolutely 100%. You have no idea. No idea. I feel like I like went through a time machine, to be honest. So sad story incoming. No, just kidding. I went to college right after high school. I was actually skipped a grade when I was like really young. So I was always the youngest kid in my class. Went to college in the East Coast, like I mentioned before. Got sick, took a leave of absence. I was gone for a very long time. I was gone for 4 years. At which time, all my friends had graduated from university. My GPA wasn't too hot either. So I was like, should I go back? I don't know. It's like I'll be starting from scratch in like a very far away place. So I decided to withdraw. And that's why I started over at community college. And it was a good place for me to like start a new, like turn a new leaf and do something different. Ever since then, I do definitely feel like I've been in a sense, catching up, but it's catching up to this timeline that society sets for you. And it's really hard to reconcile that idea the farther along you go in your life, because most people, like, what they know is, like, they go from grade school to college. College is very like, everything's very organized. All your friends are in the same place, or all the people you meet that become your friends, all the opportunities are under one roof. That's not how the real world is like, right? And when you go into the real world, you'll see, like, things are so dynamic. It's a sandbox. Anything is possible. There's so many possibilities for, like, how you want to choose to live. And I think that it's really easy, if you don't consider all these things I just described, to fall into the trap of thinking you're behind, you're behind, you're behind. But there's no one grading you in life. That's the beauty of it. You get to design your own story, and you get to design, like, what you think is meaningful in life. And if you understand what matters to you and what you go after, then there is no longer any need to, like, consider this concept of being behind, because it's not like we're all in a race to the graveyard. That's not how we go about life, and that's not how you should either. It just takes a lot of courage to break out of the mold and still want to, like, create your own narrative. And if you are going through that and you feel like you're behind, like, I really truly feel for you, because I've been in those shoes. But you have to put things into perspective, find the people who, are in your corner, find allies, mentors, friends, keep your support system close to you, and be willing to be open and vulnerable about these details. And soon you'll see that there's so many people who, like, have had to change things in their life, and maybe things that happened to them that had nothing to do, that was out of their control, right? Whether it's, like, family illness, personal illness, like, financial issues, anything could happen. And the important thing is that you get up every day and you practice gratitude and you keep on chugging along, because, like, it's not over until your heart stops. Like, even if you're in the gutter, you can rebuild your life. And then if you understand that that's possible, you will shed the fear of being behind. And sure, your friends might go off and, like, they have their jobs and they start having families, they have kids. Good for them. That doesn't mean that they're immune to problems. That doesn't mean that they made it and now everything's chill. No, usually it means there's more responsibilities on their plate. There's so many things that people don't tell you about that they're going through and they're dealing with. And it's really hard to, like, be able to talk about these things sometimes, even with people you're close to. So I just encourage you to, like, have faith, to know that if you're feeling behind, there are ways to, like, build up knowledge you might not in other ways. I learned so much from my path I don't think I would have ever been exposed to if I had just gone through school straight the normal way. I mean, speaking to me, I would have been an attending by now if I hadn't left my original college. And that, like, I can let that, like, I can sit here and let that hit me like a freight train and ruin my day. Or I could just take it with a grain of salt and realize, like, I'm still here and now I'm in med school. We're back on track, baby. No sweat. Thank you.
Anyone else wants to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I can share a little bit. Well, I am the oldest incoming student in the MS1 class right now. Believe it or not, I'm 45. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not. I'm 33. I'll be 34 this year. And I'm taking the longest program. So MD PhD is another roughly 8 to 10 years. By the time I finish, I'll be like maybe 41. And guess what? I'm loving it. It doesn't matter how old you are when you start. You're always going to feel behind no matter what. If that's the case, if you think that way, if you let it sink in, sure. If you compare yourself to others, then yeah, you're going to feel like you're behind. But that's okay. You don't need to think that way. Trust me. I did it for a while. It got me nowhere. Eventually I had to just realize that, like, if I want this career, if I want to make a difference, if I want to save lives, nobody's going to care how old I am when I start. Okay. If you're doing this for the money, you're in the wrong field. I'll tell you that much though. You can get into business or you can get into computer science or do something else and make money quick. Becoming a doctor isn't about making money. It's great that we get paid well when we finally start to get paid, which will not even come until after residency. So I might finish med school and my PhD by like roughly 41 years old. I still will not have completed my residency. I'll be in residency for another 3 to 5 years after that, depending on the specialty, maybe a little longer. And then I'll probably start making money closer to 50 years old. So as you can tell, I'm not here for the money. But I will tell you that much. Just focus on your mission. Why are you applying to med school? Why are you here? What is it that you want to do with your life? Are you going to be happy seeing patients, making an impact, changing lives, inspiring people, teaching people, serving your community, the greater scientific community, the nation, doing surgery, doing research, whatever it is that you're going to do, medicine opens that door for you. So just pursue something you're passionate about something that you're passionate about, and keep reminding yourself why. And if you forget, volunteer at a shelter, go back to the hospital and do an extra clinic shift. You'll be reminded. And if it's for you, you'll know, and you won't give up, because that's ultimately that's ultimately why we become physicians, right? It's to learn, teach, and heal. So please join me on this path. I welcome you with open arms. But don't get me wrong, there are times that it gets harder. And there's times where I'm reminded of how much older I am, how much I have to work extra hard to retain something because my brain isn't as young as it used to be. But that doesn't matter. Okay, it doesn't, because if you work hard enough, that dedication will push you forward and will keep you going.
All right. Next question is, how did you network and look for resources like internships, especially as a first-gen student?
Oh, I can answer this. I have like no shame, to be honest, and I'm gonna be so transparent with y'all. Like, I initially, when I started community college, I was like super shy, and echoing what everyone said, like you kind of feel like, oh my gosh, this is taking me so much longer than everyone else, and when am I going to transfer and this and that? But something that my mentor told me, who she's now at another medical school and she's like thriving, living her best life, was that closed mouths don't get fed. What's the worst that someone could say to you? No. They could not reply to your email, which will happen more than once on your pre-med journey. They could not reply to your Instagram DM because, yes, I'd be DMing people on Instagram like, hi, so and so. I noticed you have this opportunity. And you'd be surprised how many things and how many doors open for you if you just ask. So, honestly, that's just kind of what I did at some point. I just swallowed my pride and I just said, I'm going to go for it because at the end of the day, the worst they can say is no. And like, even in regards to the SHPP program, to be so transparent, the first time I applied as a freshman and I didn't get in. Could I have given up? Yeah. But I said, no, like I'm going to make it my goal. I'm going to work harder this year. I'm going to get perfect grades and I'm going to get in next cycle. Like, I don't know how I'm going to get in next cycle, but I'm going to get in. And sure enough, I'll never forget the day that I got the like check your portal to see if you got in. I was in Calc 1 and I was like, I had to go to the bathroom. And I like ran out of the room and I was like on my phone, like outside the door checking. And I saw that I got accepted at the UCLA site, which is like my top choice because mind you, that program is students from Harvard, UPenn, Ivy Leagues, all these schools. And I go to community college and we're in the same program. Had I given up after I didn't get in the first time, I would have never gotten that tremendous experience that allowed me to meet really lifelong friends. So it really is, you just sometimes have to swallow your pride. Don't be afraid to shoot your shot because at the end of the day, the worst they can say is no, and nobody can make you feel inferior unless you let them. You're valuable, and this is such an important milestone in your life that will have such a big impact and a bigger impact than you imagine on your application.
Anyone else?
I think Vanessa did an amazing job explaining that. I don't really want to detract from that. That was amazing.
I would just say that if you're at a community college, like look in the MESA program and try to get in. There's also a lot of STEM programs, EOPS, like have no shame, like, apply to any programs as you can, because and then
There was one I did. It's called UCLA MedPep, and I was involved with that. I mean, I'm still involved with that program like to this day because that program changed my life. Like, I got a mentor through that. You guys can follow them on Instagram. They're called UCLA MedPep. They're associated with the CESLAC Center at UCLA and with the David Geffen School of Medicine. I cannot recommend that program enough. They have like an MCAT mini academy. They have like one-on-one mentorship for first-gen non-traditional students, and I think that program had such a big impact on me transferring, me finding mentors, like even through the application cycle. I know people like to charge you to like read your essays and stuff. I did not pay for anyone to read my essays. And I just had a bunch of mentors that had done that program that were already in med school help me out. So it's a really, really great resource if you can apply and get connected with them.
Not to steal from Vanessa's thunder, I just want to add one more detail. I think in my version of how I would word Vanessa's like complete lack of like, I don't care. Like, I'm just gonna do it where I'm gonna be myself, be authentic, and just shine. Be that way. Like, don't be bashful. Like, go after what you want. Be hungry. And the reason I say this is because oftentimes like, all these programs exist, and this is wonderful. But you never know what kind of opportunities can land in your lap if you just start asking around, if you take initiative. I think about it like this way. There's a phrase like, oh, you should like go through the window of opportunity while the window's open. There's been times where the window was open and then I'm about to go through it and then it closes. For example, the pandemic. So what do? You smash a hole in the wall. That's your new window and you jump through that. Don't be afraid to cold email people, introduce yourself, explain who you are, explain like what's your situation. Like, don't be shy. No one's like grading you. No one's like gonna take it against you. I remember like cold emailing professors to just ask about opportunities. I ended up getting a gig TAing for medical Spanish, and I did that for 3 years. And then I ended up like contributing to like the class and design, helping like build up the course. And I was at medical school course, and like I was able to get exposed to that kind of stuff and what the students were learning. So some of the stuff we've learned in the first quarter, I saw like years before because I was just in this class. I would have never ever been able to do that if I hadn't asked and tried. So don't be afraid to just like, you see someone who's interesting, email them or like go to their office and talk to them, introduce yourself and say, hey, do you have any opportunities for me? And they're like, oh no, do you know anybody who would? It was like, look here, look here. And then just go after that. Think about it like doing detective work. It's not like you're going to just walk in and then the murderer is there. You're like, okay, you got me. It's not that easy. Sometimes you got to like really do some sleuthing, put some pieces together. Someone knows somebody else, and then you can try to connect the dots and see what works. And that's if the program is full or they didn't accept you. Like, there's a difference between you apply to a program and get rejected and like, oh no, there goes my opportunity, versus you actually running out of opportunities. Sometimes you got to make opportunities. And I think that this is going to be an invaluable skill for a lot of you. If you go to a 4 year and like you're hunting for like a lab or something like that, no one's going to hold your hand and you might not see the ad for the lab. Go ask. You like something? Go. Can I join? Can I be this part of this? What can I do? I want this. Can you help me? Can you help me be this? I want to be a scientist. Can you train me to be a scientist? I volunteer my time and my energy. Don't be, maybe I don't even get paid. The thing is, like, if you have courage, you go a long way. Fortune favors the bold here. All right, I'm done.
This is another question. How were you able to navigate med school financially and academically?
Oh, Jose, I was gonna say maybe we can even tie in like just like how to navigate medical school like financially and like balancing academics and having a life because I said that's kind of popular in the chat. And I can start just speaking from the Prime program perspective. So as I mentioned, I'm part of the Prime Health Equity program here at the UCSD School of Medicine. Every UC medical school has a Prime program, so you get a master's and an MD. And with the Prime programs, at least for my cycle, the UC Regents do give a scholarship that comes with that. And that being said, financially, I knew too, like when I was deciding between medical schools, a big factor was finances, and that's so valid if that's a priority in your life. I know for me, I'm going to graduate a little bit older, like my colleagues. So I was like, I want to start my life after medical school, so I want to minimize the amount of debt that I'm going to have. And I would say in that regard, advocate for yourself when you're in the application cycle, especially if you have multiple acceptances. Don't be afraid to be like, hey, UCLA, this is what UCSD is doing. Can you match it? The worst they can say is no. And then okay, I'm gonna pick a school based on what they can do for me. So that being said, that's kind of like my situation and what ended up happening. I have a lot of friends who take out loans. Loans is just the reality of it. When you're a physician, you will be okay. You're going to make a substantial amount of money to someday pay back your loans. I know that there's also like different programs where if you work at a federally qualified health center or you go into the military, they'll actually cover your loans. So I would always tell students like, don't go into medicine if you're trying to make an insane amount of money because like Jose had mentioned, we're in school for so long and what you go through sometimes, it makes you question like, why do I do this? But then when you see a patient and like, the fact that your career is going to be based off of impacting lives in such a meaningful and special way, That's what makes it worth it. The money doesn't make it worth it. What makes it worth it is the work you do, the impact that you have on lives, not even just in the hospital, right? But outside of the hospital, working with students, right? Working with first year students, helping them get to where they want to be. That's what makes the work worth it. And, for me, it was always like the debt will be paid off eventually. I know for me, there's no other career I could ever see myself doing. And I know that when I wake up, I'll be happy going to work because it won't feel like a job. It'll feel like I'm living out my dream and I'm in such like a privileged position. And how do you balance school? You just go with it. Honestly, med school is like drinking water from a fire hydrant. You make the best of it. There are highs, there are lows, and then there are super lows, but you build community and you find a way to balance it. I would say maybe before starting medical school, get into a routine. I know I see Jose at the gym sometimes and I'm at the gym at like 5 in the morning. So that's just kind of what you have to do as a med student. There are weeks where I see them every day, and then there are weeks where none of us are there because we have a final. So you adjust your schedule as needed. But if you have a solid community, you get through it and you make the best of it.
That's awesome. I mean, Vanessa says it super well. I'm gonna do my best to just add a little bit more to that. In terms of finances, I'm in a unique situation. So MD PhD pays for your vet school, so I have no tuition. I don't have to take out loans. Everything's paid for, and they pay me to be here, so I get a stipend. That means that like they looked at how much it cost for me to live in La Jolla, and they kind of approximated how much money I should get, so that way I can pay my rent and eat food and like live a normal life. So throughout my entire years, that much is covered for me. So my housing situation is secured. I have subsidized housing, so it's graduate housing. Most of the schools offer some form of graduate housing, which typically these universities are like located in pretty affluent areas. And if that's the case, it's expensive to live here. So you can live off campus or you can live on campus. If you live on campus in the grad housing, it's going to be cheaper than living off campus. And then, I'm very fortunate and blessed to have this financial opportunity to take the load off my back. But I still find opportunities to do things to like keep myself financially supported. I've had to do that my whole life. I'm just used to that. So you find a way that will suit your needs. Some people do tutoring on the side, or some people do other things. So if you're worried about the money, there's ways to make money to help you. And then also somewhere in one of these chats, I like dropped one of these resources that I've heard about over my time, like applying to med school and these things. It's called like the Public Health Service Loan Forgiveness Program, something like that. You can Google it. I'm sure it'll pop up somewhere. But if you go to med school and you take loans, if, for example, you take out 4 years of loans and it seems like such a huge burden, which it is, there's ways to get that paid for. Vanessa mentioned like you could do the military. I'm mentioning you can do this public service health forgiveness program, whatever that's called. And that will also, if you serve a community in need that is lacking doctors, you could be a doctor in that community, and then they can help pay for some of your education, pay back those loans for you. So there's many different ways around it. I wouldn't let the financials be the barrier. And if you want, you can apply to many different types of programs, like these mission-based programs, which will help make it easier for you. And then the other question in terms of like balancing, I guess, your school life balance. I personally love school. I love being in the classroom. I love also doing research. And I love being, like, for example, at the gym or here at the beach. So being in La Jolla is a wonderful place. Being at San Diego's an amazing place for me. I couldn't have picked a better school. And I weighed that into my decision. Like, if I had the choice to go to a med school, I thought about it deeply. I came here for a second look. I fell in love with the people and the institution, all the resources, everything has to offer. And I said, could I see myself living here for 8 years? Is this where I will dedicate myself to and be happy here? Take that into consideration more than just the name. Take that into consideration is where will you be living and will you be happy there? So I made that choice for myself and I love it here. I get to bike to my class every day. I get the sun every day. The weather's beautiful 99.9% of the time. The beach is down the street if I want it. I could study at the beach like I did today. So that's why I'm a little tan. I got some sun. And what I'm saying is find a place that you're going to love and surround yourself with people who you're going to love. And then it doesn't seem so dreadful. You can be studying all night long or hitting the gym with your friends or do something that you love throughout this medical school journey together. But take that into consideration when you're making these decisions. When you're navigating the community college pipeline, envision the dream, envision where you want to go, talk to people that are there, make those connections. And as you get closer and closer and closer, eventually I'm hoping that you all have a choice. And even if you don't, make the best of it. Okay. There's different ways to find things you love, things that you enjoy doing, whether it be music or art or cooking or something, and connect with your classmates, get involved in these student interest groups at whatever school you end up at and find your community. If you have a community, if you have a study group, then med school is completely bearable. You can actually love it, believe it or not, and you can come up at the other end having lifelong friends. So good luck.
Alejandro, do you want to add to that or?
Yeah, everything that both Jose and Vanessa said was golden. Very similar thing I would say as well, so I'm not going to say it again. When you end up deciding on medical school, it's a long road, and you want to invest in where you start training because it might define how you see medicine, what you want to go into, and where you're going to end up settling in to actually practice your career. Maybe you'll go away for residency, but how your medical school carries out their education and what's their philosophy, what's their mission, that goes a long way. I'd say if you have an application that's very based on like giving back to the community, if it's like a diverse community such as like the Hispanic community or whatnot, that was something that UCSD like really liked. And I noticed that other schools that might be better or worse because the ranking is there, but it doesn't tell you the whole story. They didn't really like it, didn't really catch their eye. But would I want to go there? No. Because I ended up like taking a look at the school. I was like, yeah, never mind. Their marketing is good, but it didn't fool me. And that's only because I went to check it out and see, do I fit here? And will I see myself spending 4 years of my life here? It's a long road. And you don't want like the place not being what you like to be the extra stressor. But again, if you have several options and you choose the best option, sometimes the best option is not your like ideal, but you make the most of it. At the end of the day, I think it's really important if you had to choose anything other than maybe geography or proximity to like your support system, your family, your loved ones. I would say look at the mission for the school, look at what they like really value, and see if you, in terms of what you want to do in medicine, fits with that. UCSD fits with me, and so I think it's really easy to find things I like to do here that fit with I want my mission in medicine in the long road. Other schools are focused like very much on community service. Some schools are very focused on research productivity, you name it. So something to think about and a better way to guide where your future is best served than just what's on a ranking list or what you hear from your friends, rumors or whatnot.
How many, so this is my favorite question people ask, kind of being facetious, but how many hours of clinical experience would you recommend prior to medical school, and what type of experience? How many hours for volunteering, shadowing, whatnot? So do you guys want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think it just depends on like your app. Like I can't give you a golden number that it's like if you do this, this will 100% get you in because that's just honestly not true. I think, especially now, medical school admissions is very right because everyone has good stats. Like I kind of typed it in the chat, but your good GPA and your good grades, like your good MCAT, whatever, like solid MCAT, will get your foot in the door. But what's going to get you admitted is how you make yourself stand out and how you portray your story amongst thousands of applicants, and that's just the reality of it. You could have 400,000 clinical hours, but if you can't write about how that impacted your why to become a doctor, it's going to be meaningless. I can't tell you off the top of my head how many clinical hours I had, but I know it wasn't anything like crazy. My research hours was like nothing crazy either. And I think it really just comes down to like the experience you had, how you were able to portray, right? Like, what did I learn? And like, how did me interacting with this patient in clinic and assisting them doing these other things impact my why to become a doctor? And how you write it is what's going to get your foot in the door. I think there's like, I think for clinical, I put like 400 hours. I could be wrong, so don't quote me on that because I honestly don't remember. It's been such a once it's over, to be honest. But again, just like echoing, like that's what's gonna make you stand out, right? How you write about it. I think the saying like kind of like quality over quantity is really true when you apply to medical school because medical admissions will weed through if you're doing something to just check off a box versus if you were actually passionate about it. And I will say when applying to medical school, your application should tell a story, right? It should all come together and make sense. Your why medicine should be supplemented by the activities that you write about. It's like, okay, I said this person is going into medicine because they went through this experience within their community and they did all this advocacy work with the houseless community and they did research on like maybe how like social determinants of health impacted. Like it's a clear vision of what I wanted to do versus like I just did research in cancer and then I started talking about this other thing and then like it's just like all over the place. A really well put together application will stand out even if it's less hours, a lot more in my opinion, than an application that just kind of has like boxes checked off. And maybe Jose, at least for prime programs, I will say, because I did interview at a lot of prime programs for the UCs. I don't know, Jose, if you want to talk about maybe for like MSTP, what stands out. Because I think for MSTP, it might be different.
Yeah. I overdo things sometimes. I'm a bit of an overdoer. I transferred from
Overachiever.
no. I don't know about all that. Let's yeah, I mean if you're talking numbers here, um okay, so I'll just start from the beginning and then I'll get to the big numbers because they were pretty big for me and they didn't have to be that big. So when I was transferring from community college to university, I transferred with 186 units. I did not meet that. You can't even take that with you. They only accepted 105. You only need about 60 to 65 to transfer to university. So I have a proven track record of just like being uncertain with myself and taking my sweet time to get things done and to like explore all my options and to build up the confidence to finally say, okay, I'm ready. Applying to MD PhD, the biggest thing is research. So that's by far the biggest thing. I know classmates, I know people with like anywhere from 50 to 250 clinical hours. That to me seemed low because when I transferred, I had over 18,000 clinical hours. That sounds crazy, but believe me when I say this, I worked a full-time job, okay, multiple full-time jobs that were in the medical field. So there's no way that you need that many. But they saw, okay, he has seen patients for a period of time. That's all they really needed to see. And I know people who have gotten in with 50 to 250 hours of clinical experience, okay, and into MD PhD programs. MD PhD programs, the emphasis is research. So if you have a job that prepares you in a sense for research, or if you volunteer and you do some research undergraduate experience, that's going to prepare you for an MD PhD program. That's going to be more the emphasis of your application. They want to see that you have some clinical foundation, you have some understanding of what it means to be a physician, and that you have a desire to be a physician. But the requirement in number of hours is not great or high for these MD PhD programs. So if you don't have a high number of clinical hours, but you have a high number of research hours, then leverage that in your application and maybe consider choosing a path that's more research focused. But I don't recommend that for everyone because it's not for everyone. I say really think about what you want to do in medicine or what you want to do in your future. For me, it was research. For me, a big part of why I chose this path is because I want to do both medicine and research. I felt that I would not be happy with just one or the other. I need both. And when you apply, that's the big question is why do you want to do MD PhD? Why do you want to do medicine? These are the big questions you're going to get. Rehearse that to yourself in the mirror, talk to your friends, say it proudly, be confident in your answer, and it'll help you get into the school or the program that you want. But don't think about it strictly from a numbers game. I think the true like number of things that you have to hit requirement wise um, is the MCAT. You have to hit a certain number to get into med school. Every med school is different. We don't exactly get to know what the cutoff is. Some schools do have a cutoff. Some are kind of like, hey, if you're within this range, Um, I would say a top school is going to obviously require a higher MCAT before they even look at your application. You might have 100,000 hours of clinical experience, but if you don't have at least a 510, for example, then that Stanford might not look at you. It's a sad but true thing. They have to filter out. They get so many applications, so you at least have to make some of these cutoffs. I don't know what the numbers are. I'm just throwing out numbers just for you to think about. But when you make it through this progress, this whole process, think about at least getting the best score you can, at least demonstrating growth throughout your trajectory, at least having some foundation and some desire to continue to work with patients. Okay, because then that's the foundation that you're going to build off of in med school. And you're going to get plenty of experience in med school with patients, with research, with everything else. But just to get in, you have to at least be confident that you'll succeed. And the people who are going to give you these opportunities have to be confident that you like what you do and you're going to keep doing it. Yeah, so good luck.
Yeah, and I think like I think we've had something like 40 some odd deans of admission. Your extracurricular activities are not going to replace your grades and your MCAT. That's just the fact is, and I think a lot of people say, well, if I do X, Y, Z, like Jose had 18,000 hours because healthcare jobs pay really well. So they pay more than working at Starbucks or other places. And so that doesn't mean you need to do that. And getting a healthcare job requires, so you were a pharmacy tech and you were an EMT?
Yeah, so pharmacy tech, I started at maybe $2 more than minimum wage, but my boss gave me a great deal. I worked in an independent community pharmacy. Every year you stay with me, I'll raise you $1 per year. So I thought that was a great deal. It honestly, I could have made more money doing something else or working somewhere else. But by the time I left, I was like, I think 18, 19 bucks an hour. So I started like around 9 or 10 bucks an hour and made my way up. And then EMT, minimum wage. You don't get much more than that wherever you go. You can work for like the fire department and make a little more money. It's a little bit harder to get into, but if you work for like McCormick or one of these like ambulance services, oftentimes it's transport to and from the hospital or to and from like convalescent homes and things like that. The pay's not great, but the experience is phenomenal. Highly recommended if you want to like have true experience, so like emergency situations or like you want to really use medical terminology and be able to like have a really profound and deeper understanding of what it means to be a clinician. Pharmacy was great as well, more from the drugs side of thing, from the medication and the treatment side of thing. But ultimately, EMT is more hands-on. Pharmacy was more like foundational knowledge of like medicine and like physiology. So I personally like chose these paths to kind of get me that like first focus on medicine and then just kind of get paid while I'm having clinical experience. You can also volunteer and that still counts towards your hours. And definitely build strong relationships when you do that because the letters are going to matter. And you can also do things like MA, you can do nursing, you can do so many different paths. It does not have to be EMT or something. And honestly, when I was going into this process, somebody told me that like pharmacy doesn't count. Like being a pharm tech will not count towards your hours. And I was like, really? And then somebody else just told me, just put the numbers on there, put it in writing what you did and like why it's impactful. And it worked out. So don't believe everything that everyone tells you. And even on top of that, this doesn't count towards my like clinical hours per se, but I participated in the care of someone that was close to me. And you can write about that. You can write about that and demonstrate how that prepared you to become a physician or your desire to go into medicine. And you can write the number of hours that you spent doing that and why this is deeply personal to you and what you learned from that and how you grew from that. That could be one of the things you write about in your essays. There's a lot of opportunity to write about different exposures you've had to medicine or different ways that you've been prepared for this path.
I would like to add a few more things. Jose and Vanessa, brilliant answers. They had so much to add. I've never even heard of anyone doing over 10,000 hours, much less whatever you said, 18,000. This man is the hospital. I want to say that you definitely don't need that many hours. And taking a step back and just to add to what the other two have already told you guys, one of the most important things about preparing for medical school, if that's where you want to go, or PA school, but we're speaking from medical school perspective, is that everybody, like, there's so many people want to get into medicine and everyone has really strong stats and has strong experiences. Great. So how do admissions committees differentiate between candidates? And it comes down to, does a person fit well into the niche of medicine? And they only are usually convinced of that if there's a really strong narrative to what you're at. So I'll say it again, like imagine you're reading a story and it's like the new Harry Potter book dropped, right? And you're like, oh man, like I can't wait to see what happens to Harry and his friends. And then like Harry's like, oh, I'm gonna go like fight the bad guys. And he's going off like trying to find the clues to like find out what's going on. And then all of a sudden, like the story switches and it's like, oh, you know what? I'm actually gonna go like to America and go on like a side quest. It doesn't really make any sense. Maybe you'll keep reading the story, see where this turns out. This is not what you expected. That's kind of how admissions committees might read an app that seems incongruent. They're looking for a story. They're looking to see that you have motivations in medicine. Sometimes the motivations have, you've heard it a million times. Maybe it's like a sick family member or something that doesn't make it invalid. That just means it's like not uncommon. But if your app doesn't come together and really write a story about why you want to go into medicine and where you see yourself in the field of medicine and your experiences speak to that, and really every part of your app, your essay speaks to it, your activities more or less speak to it, then it's gonna be harder for them to be convinced that like you really are sure about this. And the reason they do that is because they want to make sure that whoever they take is going to see it all the way through. Because they're not breathing down our necks every day. If we goof off and we like slack off and drop the ball, they give us chances to make up. But if we really are like not disciplined and we don't have that heart and drive to go through this very hard path to eventually become physicians, we won't make it. And so they want to know from every angle of your application that you are like doing this for the right reasons. You're not doing this for the money, because in the 10 years it takes you to train, you can make tons of money on your business. Don't do it for this. And you're not doing it to like satisfy someone else's whims, because it'll come off in your story. There's not like a real motivator. Like, why do you get up every day and do this? Why do you do this? So writing a very good story, making sure those elements tie together. And you can take a bunch of things that may not seem like it's part of your story, but when you really tell your true story, you like speak, you're honest with yourself, you play along that line, you can see maybe that there's a common thread. Whatever motivated you to continue? Why did you want to look at this? Was it for the pursuit of science? Was it for integrating like your skills in science with like your interaction with people and be able to give back? Was it about like lifting a community that doesn't have people, professionals that represent them, especially when it comes to their well-being? There's so many ways you can do this. There's so many angles. A strong story could have a worse MCAT than another competitive applicant. It could have like less hours depending on what the thing is. But the strong story really carries the application. It puts an image to the app. You're more than just like a packet of application sheets that you turned in. And people can really see that, and then you'll have a better chance then. Just to speak to the hours thing one more time, there's not like you get X hours and you're good. That doesn't really work like that. They won't really be convinced that you want to be a doctor if like, oh yeah, I love clinical work and you have 50 hours. Come on, like you barely started doing stuff. Like, what can you learn in 50 hours? You need to spend a lot of time with patients, get to see how they evolve, get to see how the clinic evolves through the good and the bad. If you're working in like an opportunity with like one-on-one, people don't just get better or get worse really quick. These things are all part of an unfolding timeline. And so they want to make sure that you have a lot of exposure so that you're making the right choice. That's why they ask a lot of hours for applicants usually. And if a program is like especially strong in research, well, yeah, you better do a lot of research. You know, if you step in a lab one time, you're fooling yourself, and they won't be fooled either. So that's how you should think about it. And being able to craft a good story at the end of the day is really important. And I encourage you to like follow your passions and don't let yourself be defined what other people are doing or saying or thinking, because you are not them. And because you are not them, you have the opportunity to be yourself. Don't try to be the next like Jackie Chan. Be the first you.
I'm loving these analogies, Alejandro. That Jackie Chan one literally kicked my butt right now.
So this is from a person. I'm getting a lot of negative feedback when reaching out to my faculty advisors and pre-med advisors. I feel lost at times, but I do a lot of self-research. And they're just hoping that they're on the right path. And what would you give to that?
Anybody want to go first? Or Vanessa, want to go first? I think if you believe everything that everyone tells you, you're not going to get too far, because there are going to be a lot of doubters. Trust me, I heard it plenty of times. There's a reason I dropped out of high school. There's a reason it took a while to like go to college. There's a reason why even after I graduated college, I took a while to apply to med school. There was a lot of doubt. And you carry that with you sometimes. And sometimes we're actually just psyching ourselves out. You might meet some people whose job it is to filter through applicants or candidates, and they might pick out the best or the top, the cream of the crop, but that doesn't make someone better than you. And that doesn't mean that you don't deserve the attention and that you don't deserve someone to believe in you. I think you have to start by believing in yourself. and finding people who are going to believe in you, having conversations with people. And when you start to receive negativity, try to find out why. Sometimes it's not you. Sometimes it's them, and it's an issue with them. And you have to demonstrate that you are willing to grow and that you're willing to be determined and that you're going to overcome any barrier. And when people see that, no matter what that first person thought of you, no matter what my high school counselor thought of me, or when, a friend of mine or somebody who just happens to not like me has said to me along the way, I've proven them wrong. So prove them wrong. Find those people who don't believe in you, who are telling you these negative things, prove them wrong. Okay. Like demonstrate that you can do it. And then when you become a doctor or when you're in, med school, you can look back and say, ha, they didn't know what they were talking about. Because at the end of the day, they don't. If they just look at us like if we're a number, I'm an immigrant, high school dropout, like I have so many things that worked against me, like statistically, like I shouldn't be here, but I'm here. So just be the outlier.
Yeah, just to echo like what Jose has said, there's always going to be people that tell you you can't do it, to be completely transparent, and you really just have to stay firm in what you believe in. Like, nobody can want this more than you, and nobody can get the degree except you, because you have to take the test and you just have to go through all of it and you have to go through the journey. I remember when I went to a community college, I remember I went to the counselor, right? Because that's what we're supposed to do. And I've heard a lot of stories about counselors and like pre-med advisors being like, no, you can't do it. And I'm so sorry for everyone that actually listened to them, because I'm a firm believer that if you set your mind to anything, you can do it. Like, nobody can stop me from doing something unless I stop myself because of fear, to be honest, in my opinion. And yeah, the counselor, I sat there and I was like, yeah, like this is my plan. Like, I want to transfer to UCLA. And his first words to me were, that's really hard. I think we should be more realistic. Doesn't know me, doesn't know anything about me. And I just remember I felt so defeated. But in my head, walking out of that office, I was like, watch me. Like, watch me actually transfer out of here and go to UCLA. And it ended up working out, right? Because, I could have let his words bring me down, and I could have gone and failed tests and be like, you know what, school is just not for me, because a lot of people from my community didn't go to college. I was one of the first person in my family to go to college, let alone go to graduate school. But it was really just, me being sure of myself and knowing like, you know what, this is what I want. And also, I will say, find the right mentors and find the people that, instead of tearing you down when you sometimes fail, because failure is inevitable, they pick you up and they work with you to get better and to learn from that experience. I would say a big reason of why I'm here is because I found mentors that spoke that hope into me, that told me like, okay, yeah, we didn't do our best on this test, but what did we learn? This study method is not working, so let's try this on the next one and let's do better, right? Okay, maybe you had a setback with the MCAT. Okay, it's not going to define you. All you need to do is tweak this, work a little bit harder, and it'll work out, and it ends up working out. So when you find people that uplift you like that, that'll make the world of a difference. And I think a big piece of advice that I wish someone would have told me earlier in my journey is that not every person that comes into your life as a mentor should stay as a mentor. If you don't feel like you're having that relationship with them, and if you feel like it's more draining to you than beneficial to you, don't be afraid to maybe like, distance yourself from that mentor and focus more on relationships that are actually helping you feel more confident along your journey and feeling more like, you're getting that help that you need to succeed. But in conclusion, just believe in yourself. People are always gonna, even in medical school, y'all, like you could tell someone like you're interested in this specialty and you will be surprised how many people will start to, oh yeah, really? Well, it's like this hard. And like the average publication was this. I don't care. Yeah, it is that. And I'm on my own journey. And at the end of the day, what's meant for me will come my way, and what's not meant for me will get out of the way. And that's just like the reality of it. So, it never stops. And you just really, I can't emphasize enough, like, believe in your dreams, and above all else, believe in yourself and advocate for yourself.
Preach.
Yeah, don't be around negative Nancy.
I just wanted to do new things. I want to say something different than what they said, because what they said is beautiful and wonderful and absolutely how you have to think. At the end of the day, your dream is yours. Like the counselor goes home and they're a counselor, right? They're not, and they didn't even go to medical school. So like, how much should I believe them? You know how much like bad intel I've gotten from these people? They're like, oh yeah, well, you need like a da 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 da. You need a this GPA and you should do this that. I'm like, bro, whatever. You know what? I'm gonna do it anyway. I don't care what you say. Lots of that is based in fear. If someone tells us something, we might be inclined to believe it's true, especially if they're in a position of authority. But maybe they're not telling the truth, or they don't know the truth, and they've never been exposed to like what it takes to get through this program, what it takes to even get into medical school. these things to take with a grain of salt. What your friends say, it's like a game of telephone. Oh, my friend told me that you got to do this. My friend told me that you needed this GPA. And well, did your friend get into medical school? Did they get into that medical school? Who told you this? And like, if people pass on messages one to the other, it gets distorted quickly. Your dream is only going to be killed by one thing: doubt. And doubt, worry, all these things are not the core. The core emotion here is fear. Fear is called a basement emotion because it is the foundation for all other nasty types of outcomes that you may experience. But fear is not a word. Fear is an acronym. It stands for false evidence appearing real. And if you succumb to fear, you are buying into an illusion. Okay? Whether you think you're right or not, whether you think you're right or wrong, you're right. Okay? If you think you can't do it, you're right. You can't do it. Give up. Give up. If you ever feel like giving up, look yourself in the mirror and be like, hey, Johnny, give up. Just quit. You suck. You're never going to do it. Just give up. And see how quickly you might get pissed off at yourself for saying that. And that part of you that gets mad, that's the part that you need to feed every day, and make stronger and starve the person that's talking to you in the mirror to give up. That is how you're going to get through this. Because at the end of the day, it's you who's pushing your dream forward. You just got to sail on the ocean until you find the people who will join you, who will assist you, your crew. You keep going to the island of your destination. And you really have to believe that. And you don't have to always be like 100% locked in mode. Enjoy your life and focus on the things that you're interested in, because medicine is a huge field that has a lot for almost anybody, but you need to believe in your dream. You have to be obsessed with it, almost like a sickening amount. Other people might be tired of hearing you talk about it, but if that's what it takes, you need to do that, because it's all about the mentality that you go into this. Because trust me, when you get to medical school, you can't just like drop that mentality and just relax. You need to lock in, and it's the next level. It's all about evolving and being ready one day to handle patients. People put their lives in your hands. Like, are you ready to stomach that? It's going to be tough depending on what you want to do. And you just need to put yourself in the right mentality to do that. If you put yourself in the right mentality, like Vanessa said, you can do literally anything. Okay. And the only reason that you believe otherwise is because outside sources are telling you can't do it. Okay. Why would they tell you that? What's their agenda? They want to cut you out of the competition. They're too scared and they didn't do it. They didn't even dare to dream. I want you to dream so big that you're scared of your dream. This might be enough of that for you guys. And I like that you're here and you're like diving into the fear. That's what it takes.
Yeah,
So
according
beautiful. I love it.
I know. I hear that today too. Thanks.
I'm like, dude, I'm motivated. Let's go.
That'll be $50. Thank you. You can Venmo me.
Hey, that's cheaper than my therapist. No, according to the great philosopher Taylor Swift, haters are gonna hate. But at the end of the line, I would just say is that it takes a team, and you need to have people that are gonna lift you, and you need to have people that are gonna tell you the truth. And sometimes the truth is not what you want to hear, but you may need it. But at the end of the day, like, why we do this every twice a week is we bring like deans of admission and like decision makers and summer program directors and stuff to tell you what it's going to take and give you instructions. But what you do with that is you got to go and try and do it. And so, but what Alejandro said, that you're going to hear from from your friend that says, oh, my neighbors, cousins, brothers, uncle, aunt said this, and it's just like, well, I'm sorry to say this, but who the F are they? Like, are they a doctor? Oh no, they are somebody who heard from. It's just like, so like, so that's true, but there's some truth that are out there from people, they've either experienced it, they've gone through it, that you should, that you should take a value in what people say. And there's a lot of keyboard warriors that sit on Reddit and stuff and write all these things, and you don't know who they are, and I would just ignore them. Like, don't sit there and listen to people. And also, like, social media has some good things to it. Like, we try to post like a lot of like opportunities and things that are coming up, but but also life is not Instagram or TikTok or whatever. Like there's ups and downs, and take those into consideration as well. Because I would just say this: anything in life, you're gonna fail as many times as you're gonna compete, as you're gonna succeed, and that's okay. That's part of life. A lot of people are asking about MCAT questions, MCAT, and then so MCAT prep and what you guys did for MCAT. And I just want to add a caveat. For the last few months, we've done like 6 sessions on the MCAT. So just go back and look at those. And we also put like 6 GB of resources on each of those sessions. So just go down and download some of the things that we posted up there, like flashcards and other stuff. But do you all want to talk about your MCAT Funzy experience?
Uh, I hated the
Do you
MCAT.
remember? Have you, or maybe some of you have totally forgotten it, and you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. What is the MCAT?
Yeah, you guys
Yes.
took an MCAT? What is that?
Yeah, like y'all, I promise you, like, once you get through the MCAT, you're like, oh, like it was bad, but like, okay, like we got through it. And then once you get into medical school, you have like steps start looking at you, and it's like, oh, we're gonna do this again. But all I will say, one like looking back on my MCAT experience, I had like horrible nervousness in regards to the MCAT. Like for some reason, I will say I think half the battle of the MCAT is believing you can get through it. Because like once it is a beast. It is a big test. You sit there for like almost 8 hours, and it doesn't even feel like 8 hours because your body is like on adrenaline. A lot of us don't even sleep the night before because we're so nervous, and you're just like go, 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 go. And looking back, I would just, trust the work you put into it. And what you put into the MCAT is honestly what you're gonna get out. Half of it, like I said, it is a mental battle, right? It's believing that you can get through the test and get a good score. Just like I did a lot of things for the MCAT. I bought like the most expensive books. I didn't pay for a prep course, or I'm lying. I did. I did MCAT Bros, which I recommend because I think it was like the most affordable thing you can do because everything like Kaplan, I didn't have that type of money to blow, but I could afford MCAT Bros because of my clinical job. I did that and I would go to a few other classes. I bought like super expensive books that I didn't even use, which is why I kind of put in the chat right now. If I could go back, I would have not bought $700 books because they just didn't work for me. What worked for me was going to MCAT Bros and watching Khan Academy free videos. And there's a lot of free resources online that you can use for the MCAT. I think Khan Academy is still free and they have like lessons on each chapter and then they have practice questions right after, completely free. Like that's crazy. It's unheard of. And like if you're struggling with a topic, maybe get like an old Kaplan set of books, which is what I should have done instead of buying a new pair. And read that chapter, then do some Khan Academy, then do some practice questions. And if there's one thing you should invest in that I look back on now, it would be UWorld. I think UWorld is an excellent resource that everyone speaks so highly of that I will be purchasing again when I start studying for step one because it really is so representative of the questions that you're going to get. Like even the way they format the questions on the screen looks similar to the MCAT, like when you're in there. And that being said, too, I would say for practice tests too, I would save the double AMC ones until the very end because those are the most representative of what you're gonna get on like what to expect on the test. And a lot of people average what they get on those, and that's like pretty representative, like plus or minus 2 or 3, what you get on your actual MCAT. So before I started double AMC stuff, I did the Kaplan books and I did the Khan Academy and I would go to the MCAT Bros once and I would take blueprint practice tests because those are hard. Those are like kick your butt, to be honest. I was like humbled very quickly on them. And I know I saw someone write like that they took a double AMC one and they got a 494. That's what I got without studying. That's so normal. Once you study, you'll be like so impressed how much your score just jumps. And then once I started hitting a 500 on Blueprint, I kind of realized like, okay, like I know the material. It's no longer a content thing. It's going to be how they're wording the questions. Half the battle is figuring out what they're asking you and where to find it in the passage and kind of like how to strategize. So once you hit a 500, I personally would start using double AMC stuff. And that's where you're going to really like study the questions. Like I had a friend who gave me like this breakdown and she took every question. So every full length she took, she reviewed it and it took her like 12 hours to review them. But that being said, she took every question, whether right or wrong, and she put it into this Excel sheet. She's like, did I get it right? What was my thought process through this question? Was my thought process what the double AMC people explained in the explanation? And then she wrote another question for all the other options, how double AMC would have written it for her. She got an incredible score, and rightfully so, because she put in that work. Once you understand how these test takers word stuff, you will honestly get to a point where you kind of like read a question and you're like, I know exactly where to look in the passage because you've done so many of their full lengths. And it's very, very representative of what to expect on the day of the test. I don't think any curveballs other than cars were really thrown on me the day of my test, and it ended up working out in the end, right? You'll probably feel terrible after you take the MCAT. I know I did. I felt horrible. I left crying, and then I got my score back and I was like, oh, there was no reason to shed tears. So it'll work out in the end. And like really it is, you can do it as long as you prepare, and don't be afraid to use free resources. Apply for all the free stuff too from AAMC, and the work you put in is definitely what you're gonna, get out of it. If I'm sure you hear this a lot, if you have the privilege of not working, do it. Because working is a huge barrier while studying for the MCAT, and it is a beast of a test, and it's just something that you have to even like train your body to sit for 8 hours and just focus. So yeah, that would be my advice. That's kind of like looking back what I would have tweaked on my journey. But everyone's is so different. Once you start seeing what works for you, do that.
Yeah, we put that link in there. You could go and download one of the people that got a 97 percentile. She has her whole spreadsheet in there on that page, so you can look at it. Alejandro and Jose, if you guys could follow after Vanessa.
I can go next. Vanessa clearly mastered the MCAT and slayed it because she said most of what I would have said for people who are scared. Like the MCAT's like fighting the boss. Okay. You can defeat the boss, you can do well in med school. All right. That being said, to prepare to fight the boss, you have a lot of options, a lot of resources, many of which she's already mentioned. I won't even go into that stuff because it's all there already. I'll just give a couple of different pointers that are based on things that I think might not be too obvious. First of all, like as mentioned before, like it's really hard to take the MCAT and also be doing other stuff. Like some people are studying the MCAT while they're in school. Props to them. I would say you probably have to spend like way less hours a day doing MCAT because you have all these other distractions. If you can manage to like take a couple months off and you can study for the MCAT full time, it goes a long way because you're just doing that day in and day out. You take it like a full-time job. You go to your job, you go there, you get there at 9 a.m. and you leave at 5 p.m., more or less. So if you study 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., you give yourself breaks, you give yourself one day off a week. So you're not doing MCAT every single day ad nauseum. You give yourself one day to like relax and have fun. Then that's a good pace to be at. And you're giving yourself a couple of months to like really study, understand where your weaknesses are and where your strengths are. Because some schools, like they might see a score, it's pretty good, but ideally they don't want you to have, because there's 4 sections of the MCAT. They don't want you to have like really good scores in 3 of them, and then you like totally tanked one of the 4. They might be like, I don't know about that one. Like you'll never know what they're thinking, but that's something to keep into mind. A lot of people's Achilles heel is the cars section. Cars is basically like reading comprehension. Literally everybody I've ever spoken to in my entire life, and now Vanessa's number 7,400 is they hate cars. All right. I'm sorry. I actually liked cars. I thought it was the best, but I like to read. So it kind of was like, oh, it's just more reading. I like to learn about these. What are they teaching us now? Oh, cool. We're learning about like basket weaving. That's interesting. That's just because I'm a nerd and I like to talk about fringe stuff. When you're learning stuff like that, you can never really prepare for it in the sense that like you don't know what kind of passage they'll throw at you. But really it's understanding like, why would this person write about this? Why would they write it in this way? And like, what is the between the lines they're trying to say? And that is like something that could really guide your car studying. It's not like, oh yeah, there's the answer, guys. Like write that down and you can turn off the Zoom call. That's why cars are so hard because it's so like fluid. You don't really know they're gonna throw you next. But the mark of good writing in general is you make every word intentional. If you like read something official, if you pay attention to what they write, they don't like add fluff. They write every phrase, every word, every sentence intentional because you got professional people scanning it, making sure it looks perfect. Oh yeah, UCSD, heaven on earth. The streets are paved with gold. Please come to our school. Please come to our school. Give us money. That's how it is because that's the way that the writing comes off and presents itself, and the writing is seamless. In the same way in the car section, when you read that and you like understand why they're writing what they're writing, it kind of gives you try to put yourself in the author's shoes. That can help some students understand why would they put this phrase and what's the point of including this to like communicate what. So if most likely most students will have the most trouble with cars just because it's like a total curveball half the time. Give yourself extra time for the sections that you're weakest at. And the more time you have to study, the more time you have to figure that out, and the more time you have to prepare for that. And I say, like, if you were running out of time, you had to prepare for something, review the stuff that you're weakest at. So if you don't remember your amino acids, you can bet that they're going to test you, ask some question that's going to be like, okay, like, there was a mutation and you change this neutral amino acid to a positive amino acid. Like, which amino acid should you like put back in there to like make this enzyme work again? Well, it's going to be a neutral amino acid because it worked when you had a neutral one. That's what the problem started with. So you look through the list. If you don't know which one's neutral, which one's positive, you either know it or you don't. If that's your weakness, go back and review that. If you're running out of time, review that stuff. The things you're weak at, the topics you're weak at, and all these resources have been mentioned, Blueprint, UWorld, etc. They categorize like within a certain topic, what's the subtopic? Like if it's organic chemistry, topic is alcohols or topic is ketones, whatever. That's the topic you need to go over, review it, and then take some practice questions on that. Make sure you got it down and why you got that question wrong. And then you can take another practice test. You probably will do better. And that's how you make a difference. You get like 1 extra point, 2 extra points. Goes a long way.
Those are excellent advice. I'm going to try not to be repetitive. I'm going to name a few things that help me. One, the Khan Academy 100 and 300 page docs. Go to Anki or MCAT, and you can type that in. You can find those. Those are great resources. I love UWorld. UWorld's amazing. Blueprint's amazing. Khan Academy's amazing. Jack Weston for cars. Super recommend that. Do it daily if you can. 2 to 3 passages a day. Start to get familiar with how that works. Start without a timer, then incorporate a timer. Try to build up the speed, but don't just start off expecting to just know everything, to get everything right. Be compassionate throughout this process. It's a growing and learning process. You'll get better at it with time. The more you do it, the better you'll get. So start by doing the practice. Do practice, or what do they call them? Like to basically gauge how well you're doing, like the half legs, and do full legs. A lot of these companies offer one free. So then that way they can kind of like hope that you pay money to go to their thing. Some of them, they even have like these kind of things, like a little virtual Zoom conference. And if you attend it, they said you'll have a code at the end and then you get a discount. So attend those, and then try to do the one free for every company that you can find. Some companies are harder than others, like Princeton Review or Kaplan. They're notoriously difficult. Why is that? Because if you can do well on theirs, then they can kind of guarantee that if you get a 515, like you pay for some of these programs, and they're like, hey, if you give us a few $1,000s and you get at least, we'll guarantee you can get at least a 515. Why do they do that? Because they make it so much more difficult that when you get to the MCAT, you're more likely to succeed. Med School Coach is a great resource. YouTube, amazing resource. And do as many practice tests as you can leading up to the exam. Take them as if it was the real exam. Set your timers, set your breaks, sit in the library somewhere where nobody's going to bother you. Put on headphones with no music, or put on the little earmuffs, or do something like little earplugs, and just pretend you're in the actual exam. Build up that stamina. That's my greatest advice. I myself didn't take the MCAT right away. I was studying during undergrad thinking I'm going to take it as soon as I graduate. Life gets in the way. One of my really close friends passed away. That told me right now is not the time. The next year, I was working full time. Some other things got in the way. It was not the time. It took me about 3 tries studying for the MCAT till I finally said, full send. I'm going to commit to a date. I'm going to show up whatever happens. But before I did that, I was scoring above a certain number in my practice test, and I saw consistency. And every time you take a practice test, just as much or more time that you spent taking that test, spend reviewing it. Okay, so like if you're spending 8 hours on a practice test, spend at least 8 hours reviewing it. Even if you think you got it right, double check, did I actually know it? Or did I just guess it and got it right? And if you guessed it, go back and review that concept. Spend a lot of time strengthening the things you're weak at. When you see patterns, I'm continuously missing the organic synthesis of X, Y, and Z. Okay, then go back and review that. However, try to find, there's some docs on the Anki as well that are for high yield topics. Make sure you know the high yield topics and succeed at those, and then strengthen other areas of weakness that you continuously see that you're weak at. If it's physics, if it's OChem, if it's whatever, find the thing specifically that you keep failing at and make yourself stronger and better. Okay. And honestly, in the interest of time, just go back and try to make like a cheat sheet with your formulas and with your key terms or key things that are going to help you. And then this is something, I don't know if they allow this anymore, but when you're going to sit down and about to start the MCAT, they give you a 10 to 15-minute window, depending on the location. And they tell you, click here, click here, click here, and you click through that. So they teach you how to take the MCAT. By that point, you've already taken so many practice tests, you probably skipped this 100 times. But on the day of your MCAT, what I did was I actually took those 10, 15 minutes to write everything down. I just had a brain dump onto my little sheet. They give you like a little whiteboard type thing. And I just wrote down all the physics, all the gen chem, all the things that I could think of in those 10, 15 minutes. While everyone already started their exam, I was writing down things. And then when I was taking the exam throughout the day, I had something to reference. Okay? It's not cheating, it's using your resources, you being resourceful and using things to your advantage. Make the system work for you. If they're giving you 10, 15 minutes, you can sit there and meditate. You can sit there and put your thoughts on paper. Whatever you got to do to succeed, but take advantage of the resources that are available to you. Best of luck, everyone. You can do this.
All right. We're gonna let everyone, but before we go, I'm gonna ask each of you to share if you could go back in time and give yourself one advice, what would it be?
I can go first. I'd say just find your allies early. Like, don't be afraid to ask for help and finding people that will be in your corner, whether you want to be a physician and you need help with whatever your step you're on now, ask for help. Ask for help and be open and vulnerable as to who you are and what you want. Because people understand like who you are really when you tell the truth, and that goes a long way, you know? Otherwise, you might run into a catastrophe. I saw a cat walk by.
Catastrophe.
Sorry, this is a complete aside. I
Yeah.
don't like take from anybody else's thing, but for people who have questions about financial aid, there's a really good book. I wish I also knew about financial aid. I had no idea what I was doing. There's a book, and the title I will put in the chat for everybody's enjoyment: The White Coat Investor's Guide for Students. They go into everything, like for pre-med scholarships, loans, how you pay back your loans, what you should expect salary wise, different like specialties and like complicated situations, blah, 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 blah. Check it out. It might be of like great help to you, and it'll ease anxieties, which is the number one most popular drink for pre-meds nowadays, anxiety. So thank you.
Yeah, I can go next. I always like, I've been on a lot of panels and I feel like I get asked this so often. And I would say like looking back, because it's been such a long journey and there's still such a long journey to come, going like considering what I'm gonna do with my life and residency, blah, blah, yada, yada, whatever. I would say enjoy the process and like trust that you'll end up like where you need to be, and what's meant for you like will never miss you, to be honest. I think for a long time I was so obsessed with getting into medical school and getting into one specific medical school that I was just like, this is my dream school and I have to go here, and if I don't go here my life is over, which I didn't even end up going to that school, and I'm honestly so glad I didn't. I'm glad I came here because UCSD has just been my home away from home. It is definitely the place where God put me in, where the universe met me. I met the most incredible people here. And I wish I would have told myself when I was at a CC that it's going to happen, because for a really long time, I didn't believe that I could become a doctor. And I kind of felt like I was chasing this dream that was just unattainable for me. Like, I can't get it. Like, I'm not good enough. Doctors don't look like me. When in reality, you can do anything you set your mind to. And I wish I would have lived a little bit more and celebrated the small wins, because there's so many wins along your journey, right? Getting the highest score on a test, that's a huge win, especially being a first gen student. Like, you're killing it. Like, I remember I was just like, okay, great, next one, like keep it moving. Like, and I wish I would have celebrated myself more and learned to live in the moment instead of worrying about what's to come, because the future is always going to be there and it's going to be what you make of it. So live in the present, enjoy it, and trust that it'll work out for you.
Beautiful advice from everyone. I'm going to get a little cheesy here. And for me, it's if you believe it, you can achieve it. Honestly, don't, like we talked about like almost this entire time. Don't let other people like dissuade you. Okay. You can be just as successful as everyone else or more. So just don't give up, okay? There's going to be people in your corner. We're in your corner. That's what we're here for. There's so many people that believe in you already. They haven't even met you and they know you can succeed, okay? So just don't give up. Keep working at it. It's a step-by-step process. Everyone's journey is different. And we welcome you, okay? Just feel free to reach out with questions. We're here for you. There's many people that are here for you. Whether or not you believe it, we're here for you, okay? And you will achieve it.
Yeah, I don't know if we
Alrighty,
can like
well,
contact info or like how to
Yeah.
reach us. Like, don't be afraid to reach out for mentorship. Like, I always
mhm.
tell students this, like, reach out, DM me, send me smoke signals, send me an email, and nobody does. It's crazy. So, if you really want to mentor, we're here because we care, right? We want, we didn't get here alone, and we want to make sure that we help other students achieve their dreams, especially students that are first gen or have really stories that resonate with ours.
Hi. So, yeah, you guys could leave it. You just have to drop it down. Uh, can you drop it down and leave it for everyone? Okay, let me just. I could repost it. All right.
Yeah, I gotta say this again. Do not be afraid to reach out. Don't ever think your questions are stupid, please. Like, if we're gonna be physicians, we're gonna listen to patients say like pretty much anything, and all we care about is making sure that wherever they came in, how they came in, like unwell, they get better when they leave. That's all that matters. So if you, student, are unwell of mind, body, or soul, come to us, and we shall do our best. And that's all there is to it.
Um, Sorry, I'm just trying to put this in there before we go.
We got nothing but love for each and every one of you, okay? Don't forget that. That's why we're here. We love to see these fresh faces, people from unique places. We all came from somewhere different. And this diversity that we're bringing to medicine is going to change how medicine is, administered from here on out. As future physicians from different backgrounds and different languages, cultures, countries, whatever you're coming from, whatever you're doing, just know that we need people like you in medicine. Okay, there's going to be that one patient who's going to be able to connect with you because of your background and because of who you are as a person and the things you believe in.